If you played in the Big Ten between the years of 1997 and 1999 and you faced the Penn State Nittany Lions and number 11 didn't put fear into your heart, you didn't have a pulse. Lavar Arrington during his tenure in Happy Valley looked like the second coming of Lawrence Taylor. And you may think that that is hyperbole, but trust me, it isn't. Lavar Arrington was a dog, and I mean a junkyard dog. Lavar Arrington's blood-type reads as football player. When you think about his career at Penn State, you think about that Lavar elite. That play that he made against Illinois just was a play of instincts, someone who trusts their gut. To jump the snap count and make that tackle behind the line of scrimmage, you knew Lavar Arrington was special. Lavar Arrington was the recipient of the Jack Lambert Award in 1999. He also was the Buckeyes Award winner for the nation's top linebacker in 1999. And more importantly, he won the Chuck Bednarik Award as the nation's top defensive player in 1999. Lavar Arrington's 1999 season definitely makes him one of the greatest college football players of all time. Have you ever seen Hulkmania on the gridiron? The year is 1986 and the Hulkster is dominating the World Wrestling Federation. If you go to Norman, Oklahoma, there's a guy by the name of the Boz who's something like an action hero. The coolest guy who ever walked the face of the earth. Brian Bosworth was dominating college football in 1986. Rocking that faux with a bandana and a neck roll. Brian Bosworth was smoother than a George Gervin finger roll with the punch of a Dominique Wilkins dunk. Play with faux if you want to. Run through that whole bull jiving. It's something that you won't do. Barry Switzer was once coined saying Brian Bosworth was the greatest to ever play the game. National champion in 1985, two-time Buckeyes Award winner in 1985 and 1986, two-time unanimous All-American 1985, 1986, three times All-Big 8, 1984, 1985, and 1986. Brian Bosworth will go on to be drafted first in the supplemental draft of 1987. Tommy Frazier was a cyborg who played quarterback who arrived in Lincoln in the fall of 1992. Tommy Frazier had God-given talents. We're talking about raw athleticism, speed. If you blink, he's gone. Strength, he was Tim Tebow before Tim Tebow. He was Cam Newton before Cam Newton. He was Michael Vick before Michael Vick. Anything that those quarterbacks were doing in the 2000s, he was doing in the 1990s. The Tommy Frazier era was one of the most dominant eras in college football history. Back-to-back national champions in 1994 and 1995. Tommy Frazier was 31-1 as a starter in the regular season. He was 33-3 overall. When Tommy Frazier and the Nebraska Cornhuskers hit the field during his tenure there, they were expected to win. 1995 will forever be synonymous with Tommy Frazier and the Nebraska Cornhuskers running college football. Tommy Frazier was the Heisman Trophy runner-up, 1995. Johnny United's Golden Arm Award winner, 1995. UPI Player of the Year, 1995. Sporting News Player of the Year, 1995. Football News Offensive Player of the Year finalist, 1995. National Quarterback Club Player of the Year, 1995. Tommy Frazier was a bowl MVP 1994, 1995, and 1996. Listen, if If you didn't get a chance to watch this man play, you missed one of the greatest college football players of all time. It's crazy when you think about it that C.J. Spiller was almost a Florida Gator. You think about head coach Urban Meyer, Tim Tebow, Percy Harvin, the Pouncey brothers, Joe Hayden, Derrick Harvey. That would have been dynamic. But it was a personal contract between Dabo Swinney and C.J. Spiller that he would at least come on a visit. And when C.J. Spiller went on that visit, he fell in love with the Clemson Tigers. Now, I can sit here and babble all day about C.J. Spiller. He was a Buffalo Bill for crying out loud, but I'm going to get my brothers Earth, Wind, and Fire and a little chopped and screwed and play these here highlights. That Earth, Wind, and Fire is so cold. C.J. Spiller, Clemson stats, 606 carries, 3,547 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, 32 rushing touchdowns, 123 catches, 1,420 yards, 11 touchdowns. C.J. Spiller was a game-breaking back who was also dangerous in a return game. That makes C.J. Spiller one of the greatest college football players of all time. Derrick Thomas was not only feared on a Sunday in Arrowhead, but he was also feared on a Saturday in Tuscaloosa. Derrick Thomas on the college football field was the equivalent to Bo Jackson or Tecmo Bowl. 27 sacks in a single season. That is a cheat code. That is up, down, left, right, a start. Period. Hall of Fame head coach Bill Cowher once said of Derrick Thomas that because he skipped out on the 1989 NFL Combine, that when they went down to Tuscaloosa, the Kansas City Chiefs organization really wanted to work him. So they ran him, and they ran him, and they ran him, and they ran him until Bill Cowher started running out of drills. And then finally, he realized that Derrick Thomas wasn't going to get tired. While defensive linemen were getting tired, while defensive backs were getting tired, Derrick Thomas, he don't get tired. Derrick Thomas was electrifying, finished his career with 204 tackles, 74 tackles for loss, 10 forced fumbles, 2 safeties, 52 career sacks, 9 block kicks, 1988 Buckeyes Award winner, 1988 SEC Player of the Year, National Defensive Player of the Year, 1988 unanimous All-American honors. Derrick Thomas was selected 4th in the 1989 NFL Draft by the Kansas City Chiefs. In the 1980s and 1990s, we had a run on bigger running backs. I'm talking about Eric Dickerson. I'm talking about Kevin Mack. I'm talking about Craig Ironhead Haywood. I'm talking about Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare. I'm talking about Jerome Bettis. I'm talking about Bam Morris. I'm talking about Natron Means. But none of them were more physically imposing than Eddie George. Eddie George was a running back who looked like he played defensive end. Eddie George career stats at The Ohio State University: 643 carries, 3,578 yards, 5.6 yards per carry. That's as a bruising back. 43 touchdowns, including 23 touchdowns in 1995. Eddie George wore down defenses, and by the fourth quarter, they wanted no problems. Eddie George would go on to win the Heisman in 1995. He was also Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year in 1995, Consensus All-American 1995, Walter Camp Player of the Year Award 1995. Eddie George would go on to be drafted by the Houston Oilers in the 1996 NFL Draft. Reggie White, also known as the Minister of Defense, will put the fear of God in SEC offenses during his tenure as defensive tackle with the Tennessee Volunteers. The funniest thing about it is Reggie White will make play after play after play from the three technique. Hadn't even moved the defensive end yet. The word sack didn't become an official NFL stat until 1982. And I guess the empathy in me always made me think of the great players before then, like Deacon Jones was probably unofficially the all-time sack leader, or Carl Eller and Alan Page from those great Minnesota Vikings defenses. But officially, when I think of the word sack, Reggie White is always the first person that come to mind. I think he's the greatest player to ever rush the quarterback. Reggie White finished the 1983 season with 100 tackles, 72 solo. That's insane. 15 sacks. Reggie White would garner all SEC honors in 1983, All-American honors 1983, SEC Player of the Year 1983, Birmingham Touchdown Club Most Outstanding Lineman 1983, Monday Morning Quarterback Club Most Outstanding Senior 1983. Reggie White would go on to pick the USFL over the NFL, but finally would make it to the NFL in 1985. I guess every episode gotta have a crazy player, right? If I'm a wide receiver and I gotta run a post and number 42 Ronnie Lott is there, alligator arms. Same thing for Jack Tatum, same thing for Steve Atwater, same thing for Sean Taylor. I guess the difference with Ronnie Lott is he revolutionized the position because he was able to make plays on the back end, get critical interceptions. Ronnie Lott was ahead of his time. The biggest thing I can't wrap my head around with Ronnie Lott is not only was he a national champion with the Trojans, but also he was a part of a 28-game win streak with USC. That's incredible. Ronnie Lott will go on to finish his USC career with 13 total interceptions, including 8 in that 1980 season. Ronnie Lott will also get All-American honors in that 1980 season, as well as all Pac-12 honors. Ronnie Lott will go on to be the 8th pick in the 1981 NFL Draft by none other than the San Francisco 49ers, making Ronnie Lott one of the greatest players in college football history. There were certain players at wide receiver that played with this flair. The way Jerry Rice ran that slant or that post route. The way Lynn Swann made incredible catches for Terry Bradshaw. The way Larry Fitzgerald played the position during his tenure at Pitt. It was poetry in motion. Larry Fitzgerald was dominating in his 2 seasons at Pitt. 161 catches, 2,677 yards, and 34 touchdowns on his career as a Panther, including a 2003 campaign in which Larry had 92 catches, 1,672 yards, and 22 touchdowns. Larry Fitzgerald was torching Big East defenses. Fitzgerald finished second in the Heisman voting in 2003 and arguably could have won. Unanimous 2003 All-American, 2003 Biletnikoff Award winner, first team All-Big East 2003, history. 2003, Walter Camp Award winner as the best player in college football. Larry will go on to be drafted 3rd overall in the 2004 draft by the Arizona Cardinals. The 1990s will forever be my favorite decade of college football. The era of the playmaker was born, and we had players like Rocket Ismail and what he was doing in South Bend. My all-time favorite college football player, Desmond Howard, and what he was doing in Ann Arbor. Dynamic running backs like Hajana Carter, a forgotten stud, an Iowa Hawkeye, and Tavian Banks. College football was different in the 90s, but there was a guy in Tallahassee by the name of Peter Warrick, and trust and believe me, he made me switch from running back to wide receiver. Peter Warrick was must-see TV during his tenure in Tallahassee. Career stats: 207 catches, 3,517 yards, 17 yards per catch, 32 touchdowns. His best campaign was his junior campaign: 61 catches, 1,232 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Yards from scrimmage: Peter Warrick was an animal. 248 plays, 3,705 yards, 36 total touchdowns. Peter Warrick helped the Florida State Seminoles win the national championship in 1999.